And it's going live. It says it's streaming. I'll give you a thumbs up.
It says that we're live on Facebook right now on my screen. Maybe we're live. Hello, everyone, if we're live.
Hello, Facebook world and TMFA participants.
We're live, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, TMFA. It's good to see you guys out there. We had some technical difficulties before. Facebook was apparently full, and Facebook Live had fullness that wouldn't allow us on. So sorry for that, but we've come here anyway. We had a panel of 5 excellent coaches that we wanted to, share some knowledge with you and some information. 2 of them had to go, sadly, to meet with other clients. But those of us that can stick around, we just wanted to come on and do a quick Q&A for everybody. So we're going to keep an eye out for your questions in the comments, anything at all about accents, accent acting, training, all of it. Bring it our way. We're here to help. We want to make sure you guys get the kind of support that you need to be successful. So let me go ahead and quickly introduce the 2 wonderful people that are with me. So actually, you guys want to introduce yourselves? Would that be better?
Yeah.
Let's do that. So flip a coin, see who goes first. Whoever has red hair should go first.
Ladies first. Let's just do the old-fashioned thing that's going to get me in trouble. Actually, I'm Pamela Vanderway. I've been a dialect coach for 20 some odd years, and I am the founder of dialectcoaches.com and Dialect Coaches Worldwide. And that's who I am. And this fantastic gentleman is.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jack Wallace. You might see me on social media as Accent Coach Jack. I'm a dialect coach here in Los Angeles, originally from England, and I'm part of the Dialect Coaches Worldwide family.
Wonderful. And you all know me. You've seen me before, hopefully. But if not, I'm Dialect Coach Chris Lang. I'm a DCW verified dialect coach. Yeah, we're here to help.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye out for your questions in the comments for sure. Is there anything you guys want to start with just by way of saying hello or piece of information that might be useful to begin with?
Yeah, I see that there's some eyes on us. Just say hi to us in the comments so we can see you and acknowledge that you're here. There's no questions here yet, but should we take a question that we get a lot?
Sure.
What about what are the most popular accents that actors need now? How about that one?
That's a great question. I'll go first, and I'm sure you guys have opinions on this as well and good information. I would say the most popular accents that I get asked to do, it really depends on who the actor is coming to visit me and coming to ask for help. Usually if they are, let's say, English is their second language, or third language or fourth language, or they are not originally from America and they're coming to work in the film and TV industry here in the States, usually I get asked for a general American accent. That's probably the thing I get asked for the most from actors in that situation. But it also varies quite a bit depending on what is popular, what kind of stories are being made, what kind of films and TV shows are being made. So we kind of that, right?
Yeah, that comes up a lot. The general American thing comes up a lot because there are a lot of casting opportunities in that area. And so if your accent that you use on a regular basis, your daily accent, your preferred accent, if that accent is really close to what people perceive in general as general American, you're more likely to get sent out on a lot of roles. But if your accent is far away from that in any direction, then casting and production think of that as only calling you in for those roles. They don't think, oh, this character could have that kind of accent too. It's not really in their sense of practice quite yet. It's becoming more and more, but it's still not mainstream. So if your accent is doesn't have a lot of shared features of general American, you're going to be called in for these roles here, but maybe overlooked for these ones here. So that's why a lot of managers and agents and casting directors will say to actors whose accents are further have a lot of differences from General American, they will say to them, learn a General American accent. It just gives you more casting opportunities. So that's true. That's why. Yeah. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, and just as you were talking about perceptions just there, it's interesting being a dialect coach that is not from America, because the initial perception is, oh, he's from English, I should go to him for an English accent. So I typically get a lot of clients that are looking for either received pronunciation or estuary or any of the accents from England, because it's also not a very well-known profession. So people don't necessarily think that we learn how to do accents in general. We can find a target accent and figure out how to do that, how to teach that. They think, oh, you kind of sound like this, you'll be great at teaching me that.
That's true. One thing that I want to mention that's really important for actors is not only to track what is happening in general out there, but what really applies to you. What has your manager or agent said to you? Like, oh, can you do a Swedish accent? If they ask you that more than one time in your life, that means that somehow they perceive you as what the public is looking for when they're looking for, quote, a Swedish character. That would be a thing to take note of, to say, maybe I should learn Swedish. So if I were an actor, people would say, can you do a Scottish accent? Can you do an Irish accent? I skew strongly in that direction. Even before, if you say, well, what are the popular accents you learn at college? It's always like, you learn a General American, you learn received pronunciation, you learn Cockney. Now they're trying to do estuary.
Southern.
Southern.
So of those big, broad things, I would not get asked to do New York. I'm sure, would you guys agree that wouldn't be like, oh, she's such a New Yorker right off the bat?
Yeah, no.
Despite my penchant for Black.
Despite that, no, that's not the initial thing. But certainly, yeah, you're Irish, Scottish, those things. Like those are very strong. In terms of your type, right?
Yeah.
Because what we're talking about, typing.
Yeah. So our looks contribute to it a little bit, but also the kinds of characters we tend to play. So if you play a professor, look at storytelling. What's been happening with accents in storytelling for professors? If you're seeing like, oh, well, professors always speak with a General American accent, or maybe even like a standard American accent, something very elevated, just look at that. So it's not just how you look, it's also, where do you tend to get called in for? What do you tend to get called in for? Mm-hmm. Look at the whole thing. Look back at what you've been asked to audition for, what you got really close at. Like you went in, maybe you've been asked to play a German, like a German, like 4 times, and you've come in and you come really close, but you never really learned the German accent. You're like, well, if they really want me, they'll teach me the accent. A, no, they won't. And B, learn the accent. That way you can, it's not even a matter of them having to choose. Like, oh, I love them, but can they do the accent? Can't they do the accent? Don't be the risk they don't want to take. Mm-hmm. If you've been called in a couple times for that, do it. Learn that accent. Master that accent. Be able to communicate in that accent. So it's not just about what's happening in the world, but what's right for you and your career trajectory. With the cards you already have in your hand, what's the best thing to play?
Pamela, you said something really interesting that sparked my interest right away. And this may take us farther afield from what we were just talking about, but this idea that, you think, oh, if they want me to learn the accent, they'll teach it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really sort of big thing that we run into. A lot of, I guess it's expectations of what this industry has in terms of what you're expected to know as an actor. And, from production side or casting side, and what you as the actor also expect, and making sure those things line up in terms of how you get your accent training.
It's really true. It's really true. Jack, do you have anything to say about that? I don't want to.
Yeah, well, this is slightly going back to the point before, if that's okay to keep switching and switching. But one of the great pieces of advice that you often give us And to the actors that are only just starting out, maybe they haven't been able to go in for a lot, is find an actor that has a career that you can envision, or shows that you like to watch that you can envision yourself on. See what is happening in those shows, see what that actor is doing, track those things. So even if you're right at the start of your acting journey, you don't have to think, oh, well, I haven't been sent out for a German, I can't learn a German accent. If you only watch the TV shows that have German accents in them, you might want to consider doing that too.
Yeah, any of those shows that you can visualize yourself being in, like, I could have done that role. I could have done that role, except I don't have the accent. Write it down. Take the time to learn that accent. 8 to 12 weeks of concentrated study and some follow-ups, making sure you keep it fresh, and you have that accent for your whole career. That's really, really true. Something you just said made me think. Yeah, I'll have to think about it later. The news. The news. The news is one of those things that inspires. So the news is about what's happening in the world, and what's happening in the world inspires stories. So, we're taping this or broadcasting this at the time that a lot of us are in the house because there's a little virus running around out there. And so, next year we're going to start seeing those storylines, if not sooner, seeing storylines, if not about this virus, about something plague-like. Mm-hmm. But there will be some of those reality-based stories. This actually happened kind of stories. And when those happen, we can say, oh, this is the story about the doctor from Nigeria who figured out how to do this thing. Oh, I could play the doctor from Nigeria if I had a Nigerian accent. And then it's a good thing to focus on, to say, okay, well, I see that coming down the road. Any big event is going to cause stories down the road. And you ask yourself, does my career help fit that? And if it does my career fit into that casting potential? And if it does, start preparing. Maybe you don't even have the medical terminology background. Maybe you're like, oh yeah, I saw that doctor on the news. He was talking so much, and look at me, look at him. I'm like his twin, except I don't know anything about medicine, how to handle a scalpel, how to look in a microscope, what's medical terminology, and I don't know how to sound Nigerian, but I can by the time the film gets produced. Mm-hmm. So,
and if you're like at the beginning of it, just trying to start thinking about, this process for sure, some great resources probably already exist around you in terms of, for instance, having a dialect coach that you can talk to about these sorts of things, or your agent and manager. They can help you frame these ways of thinking as well, especially if they see you engaged and they're like, oh, my actor is excited going in these directions, so we can submit them in more ways and we can all make more money, bags and bags of money, right?
Yeah. There's a service that some dialect coaches do. I'm one of them. Do you guys do this? Accent fittings, where you help so Chris does them. Do you do them, Jack, yet, or?
Not very frequently.
So, but accent fittings are a thing that can be done. So you can, it's usually one session, but you send materials in ahead of time, where the coach leads you through and asks you specific questions that will help you determine what might be the best bets for you career-wise to learn in terms of accents. Mm-hmm. For sure. So to go back to what you were saying, Chris, you had said we're talking about something else that was tangential to this.
The expectations that, if they wanted to cast me badly enough, if I do good enough as an actor in that audition, but don't have the accent, but they still like me, they'll teach me the accent for sure.
Right. Okay. So I am the founder.
Serious voice.
Dialect Coaches Worldwide. And so what that means is that I went from being a dialect coach who worked on projects and with actors to being a dialect coach that does those things a little bit of the time, but most of the time I talk to actors, producers, and dialect coaches. I have a really good perspective on what's happening. And so the things that I used to think were, gosh, the funniest things happened to me, I found out are happening everywhere. So in the last half decade, I can say that I have the data to prove that. While we, as actors, would like to think, well, if the production wants us to have an accent, they will do the following things. One, they will get me a dialect coach that is a professional dialect coach and not somebody that's a personal assistant on the set who happens to talk like that. 2, that they will give me enough time to learn the accent, and 3, they won't switch it on me the day that they shoot. And all those things are not true. Some productions have some person or persons in certain levels of power who have been through the accent deal before, so they know how to handle it. But most people who are hiring dialect coaches for productions haven't done it before. And so they don't know how to vet a coach to make sure it's an actual coach and not a helpful hobbyist.
If I can interrupt really quick,
they don't know how to vet coaches. They don't know. Well, now I don't know what it was, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, Pamela, but I was just going to interject that there's probably a good reason why that person in that decision making hasn't been through that experience before in terms of being able to choose an accent coach. And I think it's useful to know why that is, probably. And
they just haven't.
Yeah,
so haven't because not
exposed to it ever, right?
Yeah, exactly. They've not done it before. They're doing something new, so they don't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. So some productions have been through it before. Some actors have been through it before, and usually you learn by getting burned, and that's not cool. But that's what happens. So the rest of the people in production don't know. So again, there's what were the 3 things that I said? 1, they don't know how to vet coaches, so they don't know that's an important thing. 2, that they will give you enough time to prepare. Mm-hmm. So if you've never studied an accent to the point of actual mastery, and mastery really means being able to communicate in that accent off the cuff, like yourself, without a thought, that accent is second nature to you, that accent, that if you drop an anvil on your foot, you can holler in that accent without thinking, oh, I should holler like this. That's mastery. If you haven't ever gotten to that level, you can't know how long it takes. And, learning an accent is deceptive because lots of people talk. Lots of people on this planet communicate with their mouths and not their hands. And so those of us that do that think, well, it's just talking. But talking is a complex psychophysical process. And so, there's just no way to know how long it takes. But long story short, if I can do that, welcome to Pamela, is that it's as hard as a martial art. So if you don't know martial arts and we try to teach you Taekwondo for a role, film companies know it's going to take you months to figure out how to do that. And they're still going to put a body double in for a lot of the stuff. But acting an accent is as hard as doing a single continuous shot of professional looking Taekwondo for every frame that you talk in. So it takes that long. So if you are learning Taekwondo for a role, but you're already a black belt in karate, that's going to take you less time.
Different. Because
you already know a bunch of stuff about your body and how to work, and you're just going to apply it to Taekwondo. So if you know if you've mastered an accent that's not your own already, doing the next ones are much easier. But if you're like, where's my mouth? My tongue can do what? It's going to take you a little bit longer.
It's mouth martial arts.
It's mouth martial arts. It surely is. So
mouth arts.
Yeah, mouth arts. So could we say that the best actions to take regarding accents and your career are to take a look at what's going to be useful for your career, and then also to recognize that no one's going to be holding your hand out there. They really do expect that you're going to arrive and not only be able to 100% act in that accent, no matter what the character is going through when they're filming, but also that if they ask you for an adjustment kind of later on, that you're already sort of a martial artist and you can change to the new accent, because that does happen.
Oh yeah.
It does. Sometimes it happens to take.
The best time, I'm fond of saying this, the best time to know how to learn accents, and the best time to know if the accents that you're going to use in your career most likely, is before you need them.
Yeah. It really is.
When you can really dig into that training and, you know, integrate it into your soul in a way and really have mastery over the thing. Because I guarantee if you get, you know, a submission and an audition from this Netflix thing, help, I need to be Swedish in 2 days, and I've never done it before or anything like that, like that's like stressful. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and it's not as easy to do that, though it is possible to prep you for that audition as it is to learn how to learn accents and have a stable of accents sort of in your back pocket.
Yeah, the latter is what you really want as a professional actor. It's like any of your other skills. You know, look at your resume. What are you saying on your resume that you can do? Can you do those things? Can you really do those things?
You really ride a horse.
Yeah,
I mean,
can you really ride a horse? You know, and you know, for the horseback riding, definitely figure out how to do it. But you may be able to, you know, be able to ride a horse, but not jump over barrels. For accents, if you have first of all, if you have Southern accent listed and it doesn't have a secondary, what is that? You probably, people who know how to read resumes will say, they don't do a Southern accent. They don't even know where it's from. So, you know, if it's not specific, make sure that you go back and take a look at that. What can you do? If you've listed accents, can you really communicate in them? Not just do them as a party trick. Like, you know, I don't even want to do a bad accent right here, but like, you know, here comes a bad New York. Here's a really bad New York. No New Yorker is going to believe I'm from New York right now, even though sort of those shapes are in the right place. But there's a lot of actors out there who come into an audition, with that kind of thing. And you're like, they think, oh, well, it's going to be close enough. And if they like me, they're going to teach me the accent. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Picking your accent. Yeah.
That's a little bit like going in. Sorry, you go, Jack.
Sure. If you get a dramatic scene with that, and you've only got this kind of comedy accent to go with it, it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's a little bit like going into, you know, they wanted you to bring martial arts. So I wanted you to bring Taekwondo in to your audition, and you go and kind of do what you think maybe sort of Taekwondo kind of looks like. And say, if they really like me, then they'll teach me the Taekwondo.
Yeah. You know, and what's interesting is that for those other skills like martial arts or like horseback riding, there's a level of technology that can help. Like, okay, well, we'll cut away, we'll do this, we'll put them on a fake horse, you know, we'll do all this kind of stuff, we'll CG it. Yes, we have ADR, right? Automatic dialogue replacement, looping. You can go back in and re-record the lines. But here's the catch. You can't make it look right when the person's facing the camera, because how we sound is based on how we make some body parts in this area move. And so if I just change up my accent a little bit, I'm going to change how my mouth is working on the outside. I'm going to turn my voice off. Keep talking to you. So I can change my accent. When I change my accent, there are external cues that you can see. So if, for instance, like if I do a more like regular, like New York accent, something in this area or whatever, and but my lips on the screen are like, how do I put this? If I showed up and talked like this, but the sound is supposed to be like this, look at my lips. If I talk like this, see how big the smile is, but the character talks like this, and this sound comes out of this mouth, people watch and go, that is wrong. So they can't fix it. Plus, when you're on set shooting and you knew you were supposed to be Frenchish, you know, something, she lived in France 25 years ago, like, and your accent fails you, you feel that during the performance. So then your performance isn't on point. It's not your best you. So already your acting has gone down, and then the lips don't match. And then people watch it and are like, wow, that's not good. So you got to get in there and prevent this stuff.
I think it's worth reinforcing what you said earlier with Taekwondo or horse riding. That will only be for a few frames. Every frame that you speak this has to be going, and it has to be at a professional standard. It's not like, oh, this is just that CGI scene, it's fine. It's literally every time you're on camera with words.
And if you're a lead in the film and you're in 95% of all the frames,
that's thousands and thousands and thousands of sounds. We can make 5 to 7 sounds per second when we talk. 5 to 7 sounds per second, sounds that contribute to meaning. So in a 1-minute scene even, you've got hundreds of sounds. And human beings watching performances are all geared. Anyone who has the ability to hear sound and take in speech on a regular basis through their ears, anybody who has that ability can hear you when you fall out of accent. They may not always know that it was that you fell out of accent, but something in the brain says something's not right about them.
Yeah, our brains are very sophisticated linguistic computers that we've trained over decades of speaking in most cases and listening. It's why we can interpret people's accents for ourselves and still understand them when we all speak the same language, right? And the audience, even though they're not maybe conscious of how it's happening, like they definitely react to it in ways that are like either yes or no. Typically, that's it's a very visceral experience for them.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I just, yes, delivered something. Now we know how I get the mail. What were we saying? We were saying that audiences. So audiences can notice an accent has gone wonky, either because, the accent is inconsistent or it's not accurate to the area. If I start doing an accent from that I say, oh, this is from Jack's neighborhood. And Jack's like, that is not from my neighborhood where I grew up. Everybody in Jack's neighborhood is going to be like, that is wrong. I don't care if it's good or not, it's wrong. But then also there's, so the authenticity of it. Then there's the accuracy and the continuity. And that continuity thing, some people notice that the accent went in and out, and some people just are they're dubious. Like, it's that, are they lying kind of feeling in the background? And that's the last thing you want when you're an actor, because at one level acting is we're creating a whole new reality. So it's there's debates about this, but in essence it's a allowable lie, right? If we seem like we're lying, then everything is messed up. So you really want to take the time. If you want to work in a role that's where the character's accent is other than your own, then you've got to plan for it. The same way if you want to be able to shoot guns if you want to be like an action hero, you better learn how to jump.
So here's a good question that I get asked all the time. I'm sure you guys do too. How long does it take
to learn an accent?
Yeah, how long to master an accent, let's say?
Okay. Do you want to take it, Jack? Or you want me to take it?
Why don't you go ahead, Pamela?
Sure.
Because you get it asked daily, multiple times a day.
Questions I get asked. So it depends on if you're already a martial artist, right? And you may have never studied accent before, but if you were that kid who did impressions of people in your family and bunches of funny voices and copied all the cartoons, you've already been training yourself. And so if you're that person and you start to take on accents, you have a leg up. So you're starting a little higher up because you have access to your own body in a more conscious way. Then it depends on how much are you working. So usually, unless you're on a film where they're hiring the dialect coach to work with you every single day for 4 to 8 hours a day, sometimes that does happen, but it's quite rare. Unless you're in that situation, the traditional method is meet your dialect coach once a week. I have different opinion about that, but meet your dialect coach once a week. What are you doing in those 6 days in between? Did you review the recording they made for you when you met them online? Did you work with it? Did you try to extrapolate this exercise and move it into the world? What did you do all day long? It took you 5 years on average. If you're average, it took you 5 years to get your first accent. 4-year-olds don't have their complete accent yet, typically. 5-year-olds do. So it took you 5 years the first time. Don't expect it to take you 24 hours or 2 weeks to really master an accent. Can you mimic it? Can you mimic one line for a commercial in a day? Yes, you can, but otherwise you can't. I'm so
We'll
sorry.
take over while you go.
I'm gonna mute this really quickly. Hang on. Just gonna mute this.
So, Jack,
I think it's also, as she was saying, where you start from. Is the target accent you're going for close to the one that you already own and the one you already speak in? Are the sounds that you use habitually every day? For example, I don't use trills in my accent, so on a day-to-day basis. So something that has that in it consistently, I'm going to have to work extra hard every day just to practice that feature in order to make it sound believable.
for sure. I think you bring up a good point. Like, how close are you to your finishing line when you start? You know, with different clients, two different things I tend to see that fascinate me kind of in both ways equally. Either you're starting way far away from your target accent. Like my preferred accent, my home accent is nothing like this other accent. And so sometimes it's harder because it's so different, but also sometimes it's easier because those differences are so distinct. On the other hand, I see some people who come to me where we're learning an accent that's really close to their preferred accent and their home accent, and finding those distinctions is actually much harder for them. Or they're like, oh, I'm actually right next door, so I'll just go next door and that's easy. So I see all of these things. It's really kind of a fascinating look into how people's brains like to learn. And everybody's got their own kind of proclivities and how their brains have been plastic and learned throughout their lives, how they learn how to learn, right?
Yeah, everyone's brain is wired differently, and we're all wiring them as we use them. And so everyone's got a different, very unique
I have
start.
an electrician up here rewiring my brain as we speak.
That's really true. It's really true. You could have two people that were conjoined twins side by side their whole life, and they would have their brains wired slightly differently just because they're 18 inches apart at the top.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely like we're wiring that we get wired, and then we wire them as we use them. Well, Chris is an identical twin.
Sure.
and you guys have differences.
We do. Like it's astounding sometimes when we realize how alike we are in a lot of ways, and then the differences. You know, we grew up together. We were roommates for a long time. We, you know, womb mates even before that. And so like we had a lot of identical experiences, and yet, you know, fast forward now 36, almost 37 years, it's, you know, like those differences have wired our brains now in very distinctive ways. It's really kind of a cool feature.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. Should we let these guys get back to their day? Thank you.
You know, why not? Yeah, I think this has been a good Q&A. We've got a lot of good information. There's always more we could talk about, of course. I mean, the three of us, certainly. We could talk about
absolutely
till, I don't know, late tonight probably, and still talk about them overnight if we wanted to.
It's true. It's true.
And so if you're watching this after the recording, please feel free to ask any questions that you've seen since this that come up, maybe from what we've discussed. We'll be sure to hop in here and try and answer them as best we can.
Yeah, we'll be stalking everyone on the comments for sure.
For sure. And thank you for those of you who came at our intended time of 11 a.m. Pacific. And we're very sorry about the technical issue. It was Facebook is just overloaded and would not let any live thing happen. So we are glad we got to be here at least to have this quick little impromptu Q&A, but we do have a beautiful panel prepared for you guys. And so as soon as we can reschedule that, we will. And in the meantime, please join us over at Dialect. Wait a minute. What do we call it? We call it
Dialect Coaches Worldwide for Actors. In the comments, I'll tag that group so you guys can just click on the link and be taken to the group. We're going to be live there every day, Tuesday through Saturday. Every day, Tuesday through Saturday.
We're live Tuesday through Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific, Facebook willing.
Hopefully.
Facebook willing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I was also just going to say, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Wendy again for inviting us on here. We love helping actors. We want you guys to be as successful as possible, booking a ton of gigs, having great careers. This is what we're passionate about. And Wendy is too. So we really admire what she's been doing on this group for a long time. And we just want to say thanks for inviting us on again. And we'll be back for sure. We'll definitely be back on this page. So keep an eye out for us as we, talk accents and accent training and all the fun stuff. Yeah.
Bye.
So until next time, everybody, we'll see you on the interwebs. Ciao.
Bye, everyone.